It always amazes me how dirt and junk gets inside these gauges and things. They're reasonably well sealed, but always finds its way in, and we've got to get it out. Haha, success. Didn't even break it. Now, gently clean it all up, put it back together. You carefully cleaned up that face, don't want to damage anything. Looks much better. Now, that's a lot nicer. I won't put it all the way down because I'll have to test it first, make sure it still works okay. Never know, might have to pull it apart again, so we'll leave it like that for now. Very good. The fuel gauge was working fine in the FJ when it went off the road in 1970, no problems. But it's been sitting a long time, of course. Should work though. The sender unit out of the first tank that I've pulled down, I don't know whether that's from the car or from the black parts car. I've tested resistance and it seems to be okay. So it looks like that's okay. Now I'm going to check that the fuel gauge is working. So wires going everywhere. Let's see what happens when we use the float. So float's down, so it'll be empty. Float comes up. Lost connection here. Right, float down, which will be empty. Float comes up. Tank comes up. Float comes up. Half full. I haven't got a very good earth there. I'm only getting to 3/4 full. But it looks like it's fine. Look at that. So good sender unit. Good fuel gauge. Here's the starter button out of the FJ. Action's still good, but that one's okay. That one's broken and gone, so not too much I can do about that. So I went searching, and here's the starter button out of the parts car. I'm really so pleased that I stripped every last piece off that car before I took the rusty shell to Sims, and it's still paying dividends. So we'll give that a good clean up, get that working a bit nicer, and that'll be good to go. There we go, one starter button, ready to go. You can tell its history a little bit. It's been out of the old black car once for repairs or whatever. That's probably the original screw, possibly. There's a little one in there with no washer on it, so found a small washer, whacked that back in, so there we go. The hood and choke knobs should come up fine, but I'm afraid the old light switch knob is looking very poor. Well, at the stage where I can start putting some parts back in the dash, which is terrific. This is the light switch out of the FJ, and it's suffered pretty badly all those years in the shed. And when I pulled the FJ out, a possum had been living in there and it scurried out at 100 mile an hour, so I think it had been gnawing at the light switch because it's pretty beaten up, and it sure wasn't like that. Got another one in a bit better nick, which I think we can probably clean up and hopefully restore. Use that. But this is the light switch out of the black FJ the parts car, and it's in a lot nicer shape, I think, so we'll give that a bit of a clean up. Take the, you get the knob up, you push this little button down here, and with a bit of luck, there we go, that's out, so that's good. Well, after more than an hour of sanding, coarse, medium, fine, ended up with this. The shaft's pretty pitted and bad, but I think it'll work okay, and the knobs come up a lot. It's sure a lot better than that poor old thing. So it's got quite a large split in there, so I'm going to fill that with epoxy. There's another tiny one somewhere. Let that dry off, sand it back, and then we'll give it a polish. And that'll be it. That's the switch ready. Well, here's the light switch knob, lever, all that. Filling the cracks, sanding some more, polishing. It's now usable. I think that'll get me through okay. Take all these out and give them a really good clean up where the wires connect, so that we have good connections, good earths, all that sort of thing. Do it now. Might save a bit of pain later on. Well, the connections were pretty good, really. I think of 7 decades. But I will clean them up, shine them up nicely so we get really good connections, and put it back together. There we go. All polished right up, cleaned up. What do you reckon? Good for another 70 years? There's a set of points in there which are sure to be crudded up, so I'm just going to lightly run a bit of sandpaper through there. Hopefully just clean them up a little bit. A little rheostat for the dash lights. That can use a bit of a clean up too. Well, here's the dip switch out of the FJ. It looked, this is the one out of the black car, the parts car. Haven't touched that one. This one looked similar to it, not as rusty, but it's polished up pretty well. So there we are. Cut out a couple of gaskets, so as hopefully I'll get a decent seal against the firewall. Keep the air and noise and all that sort of stuff out. Dip switch in. Yep, it's that time. The old Bosch wiring loom. It has survived well, I suppose. It's pretty old. We'll clean it up, check it out, test it. If all's good, we can use it. If not, new wiring loom. I gave the harness a wipe down, get off all the dirt, dust and cobwebs and rubbish and all that stuff. And I gave it a good clean with a bit of terps and rag. Then after that I cleaned all the terminals, made them nice and shiny so when I test it, I got a good chance of working. And then I couldn't help myself. Got the polish out, gave it a polish. Doesn't it shine? I've got most of the in-dash wiring's done. Finally pretty much sorted out. And there's some pretty iffy stuff going on here. What I'm doing is a bit of a test. See what's working and what isn't. So first up, we'll try parking lights. Right hand front, left hand front. Rear parker. So they're all good.